Hey everyone, it's me, John, again, here with another Geek and Dorks review, and you guys have asked for it, and asked and asked and asked for it, so here it is, finally, my review of Stranger Things, the latest phenomenon to occur on Netflix. It's getting a lot of attention right now. It's doing very well on IMDb. It's currently rating a 9.1 out of 10. That is one of the highest ratings I've ever seen on IMDb. And their plot synopsis for it is as follows. When a young boy disappears, his mother, a police chief, and his friends must confront terrifying forces in order to get him back. And that is very succinct. But what's really great about Stranger Things is it is a throwback piece. It feels a bit like one of those movies from the 80s that we all love, something like Goonies, particularly something with kids, like Explorers. There's a great cast of young actors working here. Quite honestly, some of these kids could show up some adults in the entertainment industry. Seriously, these are very, very talented children. And that works really, really well for this piece as a whole, because even where I feel like the story starts to sag in the middle of the series, it's always refreshing to see their performances and their characters' takes on what they're going through. So what did I think about it? Well, first of all, let me point out the two true 80s throwbacks. You have Winona Ryder and Matthew Modine. And that is Modine. I've heard some other reviewers call him Modine. But if I remember right, I was alive back then. I think it's Matthew Modine. I think Matthew Modine does okay. I don't think he's given a whole lot with his character. He's kind of this, almost like the cigarette smoking man from the X-Files, this guy that's the head of a evil government organization. Not a real range in terms of acting that he's able to do with that role, kind of as it's given to us in the first season. But there's a lot of room for that character to develop, and I hope that they'll do that as they get into their second season. But Winona Ryder, let me just say, I was never a big fan of hers, even back in the 80s. I kind of tolerated her in movies, but I never truly enjoyed her performances. I kind of felt like she was this kind of stuck-up girl that I never really liked. I love Beetlejuice, of course, but even in that movie, it was kind of like, oh, here's this girl again. She's doing the same thing. She's being depressive and snotty, and that's kind of what she does. I have to say, this is the first project I've seen with Winona Ryder where I have truly, truly appreciated her acting chops. And as a matter of fact, I feel like she's gotten better as the years have gone on. She plays a mother in this, and it's her son that goes missing, and she just does a phenomenal acting job from start to finish. She's very committed to her performance. It's really, really a treat. Between her and the kids, there is a good, dense group of actors doing extremely good work in this, and that's definitely a credit to the directors as well. I know the Duffer Brothers directed most of the episodes. They have another director that I think got credit for 2 of the episodes. I'm pretty sure they still had some influence in those episodes. But they definitely knew how to get some good performances out of these people, and I really think that that is sometimes rare in this entertainment industry, and in particular for some of these Netflix or Hulu or Amazon exclusive shows. Sometimes you see some performances that really knock your socks off, and other times they are eye-rolling performances, but there are great performances in this show. The plot in this, I struggle with a little bit, and let me just tell you why. The first 3 or 4 episodes feel like a rocket ship. They're so tight, the story moves so well, there's new information coming at you regularly. It's really, really well done. I think the first 4 episodes of this, quite honestly, even just looking at the first episode, it's one of the strongest pilots I've ever seen, hands down, with no second thought. Easily one of the strongest pilots. Something happens in the middle of this season, right after the 4th episode, where all of a sudden, for some reason, the show stops making discoveries. And that's something that's very important to me when I'm watching content. I like there to be regular discoveries that are happening. And then somewhere around the fourth episode, that all stops. There's still activity that's happening around the discoveries that were made in the previous episodes, but it almost feels like the storytellers are starting to stall you out in the middle. Luckily, it snaps back into gear, particularly for the last episode. There are some more discoveries that are made about the upside down world. But whenever I hit a lag like that in a series, it makes me feel like the writers didn't quite do their job. There should, in my opinion, there should be regular discoveries that are constantly ongoing, that are unfolding this story and peeling back layers over and over and over. And there is certainly a handful of episodes right in the middle of this series where you get to the end of the episode and you're like, okay, what did I learn in that? Did I learn anything about the core mystery? No. There was some stuff that happened that might be important later, but it leaves you feeling like, why did I just watch that episode? What was the point of it? And I did get that with 2 or 3 of the episodes, basically around 5, 6, and 7. But then episode 8, like I said, kind of makes up for it. It kind of takes some of those events that happens in those duller episodes and pays them off a little bit. And here, I don't know if you've looked into this show very much, but apparently the Duffer Brothers are saying that there is a 30-page document that basically details what this upside down world is. To me, looking at the whole first season, I feel like maybe we got 1 page of that information. And I don't know that that's a great thing. I have actually taken some classes on pilot writing in particular, worked with some people that were professional writers, and whenever I would have an idea that I was banking for a later show, like I would literally go to these people and say, hey, I've got this great idea, but I don't want to put it in the pilot because I think that that should be the end of the first season. They would always come back to me and say, whatever great ideas you have, get them in, because you never know if there is going to be an end of the season. You never know if anyone's going to read anything past the pilot. So whatever your great ideas are, get them in there. And for this show, I felt like by the time you get to the end of the first season, you really don't have a very good understanding of what the core overarching mystery is. And they were very smart because they basically are running 2 main mysteries in the first season. One is, where is this little boy? And the second is, what is it that took him? And by the time you get to the end of this, you finally figure out where the little boy is, but in terms of understanding what took him, you only get a sliver of information, just enough to basically leave you wondering, what the heck did I just watch? I thought I was going to get some answers here. And that is probably my largest and maybe my only complaint about this series, and something that makes it drastically different than material that was actually made in the 80s. If you look at these films from the 80s, like I mentioned, Goonies or Stephen King films, things like that, they did not leave their concepts open-ended by the time you got to the end where you were like, I really don't understand what that concept was about. The narrative in those films in the 80s was always extremely strong, making a very salient point, something extremely direct, usually tied to humanity in some way, but you knew when you got to the end of one of those movies what it was trying to tell you. And by the time I got to the end of this series, I didn't feel like it was necessarily trying to tell me anything. I felt like I had watched a collage of very interesting characters, very interesting events, but it was left in such an open-ended and unexplained way. I almost compare it to feeling like I was watching Lost again. And some people do think that Lost has kind of reshaped television writing, and I don't know that it's in the best way, but this overarching narrative that goes on where they leave it open-ended so that they could keep writing into it sometimes gives us a bad conclusion, because by the time you get to the end of it, they have so much to account for that they either cheese out and they do something ultra simple, or they just don't answer the questions at all and they just kind of leave it loose-ended and then just end the series there. I truly hope that that's not what we're going to get here with Stranger Things, but I think we're going to have to watch the rest of the seasons to find out. And will that writing mechanic work forever? I don't know. I got to tell you, I'm kind of getting tired of watching shows that don't know how to conclude themselves properly. But there was enough good stuff in this particularly around the performance, around the production. The sets are good. It felt like the 80s. They did some music licensing. They really picked some good clips for certain places. All of that worked together really well. You have a good ensemble cast here, some very strong young performers, and a fun world to visit. The question is, am I going to want to go back season after season if we're not really making further discoveries and then answering those questions? So that's just my little critique on it. But like I said, 9.1 out of 10 on IMDb. Personally, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I would have easily given it a 9 or possibly even a 10 if they would have just addressed those kind of sagging middle episodes and given us some type of, you didn't have to spill the whole bag of beans at the end of season 1, but something conclusive enough where we had some understanding of what that world, why it exists, or why that world took that particular boy, something along those lines. And just didn't quite finish that way, unfortunately. Just felt a little frayed and loose at the end for me, but maybe that's just me. What can I say? I'm a geek like that. So what do you guys think? I've been hearing about it in comments so long. That's why I finally wanted to get my review of it out. I actually watched it a couple weeks ago. But from what I see online, it looks like season 2 is a go. And of course, with all the positive buzz around this, I think that was pretty much a no-brainer anyway. Are you excited for season 2? I know at this point, I really want to see those kids come back. I really want to see some more of Winona Ryder doing some great acting work. And I just want some more tangible, chewable story. Take care, everyone. I'll catch you next time on the Geek and Dorks channel. I hope you have an excellent day.